All right, greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Donika Jackson, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at the college. So we're going to have a wonderful presentation for you today. You're going to get a chance to ask questions at the end. So please make sure that you're thinking of thoughtful and provoking questions that you can ask our panel up here, because it's a wonderful opportunity for all of you who want to be in the business of communications and media to learn from people that have succeeded and are at the very top. So today we're joined by Mr. Lou Holder, which a lot of you know is your professor. He is an Emmy Award-winning sports personality, accomplished public speaker, educator, and communications consultant. He's the founder of Holder Sports, a sports media consultancy specializing in on-air talent development, media coaching, and strategic communications. With extensive experience working with athletes, students, executives, and organizations, Mr. Holder is also a respected professor of communications and mass media, known for his ability to engage diverse audiences and foster meaningful, impactful dialogue. Secondly, we are joined by Mr. Eddie Harrell Jr. I don't know, you haven't introduced yourself as Junior, so
my son is the third.
Is the co-president of Urban One Audio Division, leading strategy across one of the nation's most influential multimedia portfolios spanning radio, television, and digital platforms. A seasoned executive and civic leader, he previously served as regional vice president and general manager overseeing Urban One's Ohio markets and has held senior leadership roles across multiple media marketing platforms. Beyond media, Mr. Harrell has an extensive record of public service and community impact, including serving as chair of the Ohio Civil Rights Commission and president and CEO of the Columbus Urban League. He currently chairs the Otterbein, I had to look that one up, University Board of Trustees, serves on the National Association of Broadcasters Board of Directors, and holds undergraduate and graduate degrees in business administration. Please give our panel a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Again, this is a great conversation that we're going to have an open dialogue about a very important topic, which is the business of media and communications. And so first, let's set the tone. Journalism and its craft, which leads to multimedia, is under attack. Every level of the teaching experience that I talk to my students about the 5 core ethics of journalism. There's accuracy, there's independence, there's impartiality, there's humanity, and there's accountability. All of those are just now under attack in so many different areas. But there's still such a rewarding field because the media, there's so many tentacles to it, right? When you're in the media, you don't have to just be on camera, you can be behind the camera, and then with emerging media, there's so many things that are going on. So I definitely wanted to start that as a backdrop, this business, because it's the changing business of communications. And it's so good to have you here because you are in a space where you've seen all the change, right? So I think we need to start with you sharing a snapshot of your career. How did you get to where you are? And maybe some challenges along the way, because I think our audience, especially our younger journalists, want to know, how do you get started? How was the path? And a lot of people think it's straight, but it's definitely circuitous.
First, let me say thank you, Lou, for joining and leading this panel today. And thank you to Donika for inviting me, and thank you to the students for being up on this cold morning. My path was a little bit, not typical, so it really proves that you cannot have a standard path in this business. And you're right, the profession of journalism and media is under attack right now, but we will weather what we're going through because as long as you're truthful and you have integrity and you're authentic, you last what is going on in our geopolitical environment. My path to the company, I started with Radio One, now the parent company's Urban One, 15 years ago, after I was CEO of the Columbus Urban League. And for me, my business career, I knew I wanted to be in business when I was a kid. And so that's why when I went to Otterbein University, where now I'm chair of the board, I went for business administration because I knew that's something I wanted to do, and ultimately received my master's degree in business administration as well. But we I started my career with Kroger, so that's one of the largest grocery chains in the country. I wanted to be the CEO of Kroger one day. I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And my path took a little bit different. I took a detour when the organization that funded me in college was actually looking for somebody with a business background to run the organization. So I left Kroger at a very young age to become executive director of an organization called I Know I Can. And I ran that for 5 years. And after 5 years, our Columbus Urban League president had been there 25 years, and he retired. And I was approached about becoming the CEO of the Columbus Urban League and took that on. And while I was at the Urban League, I was introduced to Radio One, because Radio One, that was in Columbus, Ohio, and Radio One had stations in Columbus. And so myself and the general manager struck a great relationship there, because we supported the Urban League and Radio One. We had a good relationship. And the guy there said, hey, one day you need to come work for this company. Yeah. There's this wonderful woman named Kathy Hughes that started this company, and you would be a great fit at some point in your career. And so fast forward, I did. He went to another market, and the company recruited me to run our Columbus market. So I came into the business as vice president and general manager of our market in Columbus, Ohio. 3 years later, I moved to Cleveland to run our group of stations in Cleveland, Ohio. And about a year and a half after that, I became a regional vice president, which I oversaw all three of our Ohio markets in Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Did that about 7 years, and fast forward, the guy I reported to, who was the CEO of the radio division, retired. And so myself and one of my colleagues was promoted to co-presidents of the audio division, which led to me moving up to the DMV in March of last year. So I'm new to the area. We're headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland. And so I moved to the area as part of that promotion, and has been in the DC almost a year now.
Kathy Hughes.
Could
you just kind of set it for the audience, people watching? I mean, this is Black history.
Yes.
I mean, we are a living legend. Not many people know the breadth and depth of her reach and her impact in this industry. Could you talk about her and working for her, and what it's like actually working with a living legend?
So that's one of the reasons I left the Columbus Urban League to work for Radio One, is because of Kathy Hughes. And her story is, you can read it, you can Google it. She is a pioneer. She's an active pioneer. Yeah, she still is part of the business. She's still chair of the board. But over 45 years ago, and prior to that, Miss H worked for, we affectionately call her Miss H. Miss H was at WHUR. She worked at Howard, and ultimately became an owner in 1980 of WOL-AM right here in the DC market. That was only after 32 times being turned down for funding.
Wow.
To buy her station.
Could you repeat that again for the people?
32 times she went to investors to get money to buy a station, and finally she found an angel investor to give her the seed money to buy WOL over 45 years ago. Little did she know that the company would grow to become the 7th largest radio company in the country.
Wow.
The company went public, and she became the first Black woman to chair a publicly traded board in the country. Still is the chair of the board, with her son, who joined the business as well, as the CEO of the company. So you have an African-American female, first chair of a publicly traded board, son is the CEO, one of the largest media companies in the country. And so you take that one station, WOL, and now we're in 13 markets with over 60 stations. We have TV One, which is our cable television network. We have Clio, which is another cable television network. We have Interactive One, which is our digital division. And we have Reach Media, which is our syndicated arm, which has Ricky Smiley's show, D.L. Hughley's show, Willie Moore Jr., Erica Campbell. So those are all the things. That one station, and being told 32 times no. 32 times no, that has spawned a media conglomerate here in this country.
Yeah. And going back to my original setup, when you talk about Radio One, Urban One, all these, the umbrella of that, how important is that in today's world where, like I said, the journalism and the outlets and the people able to tell stories is under attack? How important is it, and the responsibility that you have to make sure that what Kathy Hughes started continues to grow?
Well, it's part of our DNA. I mean, she started this company reaching the Black community, and we have not wavered on that commitment. We've expanded our tent. In some of our markets, we have general market stations. In 5 of our markets, we now have Spanish-speaking stations. And so we've taken what we do, the backbone of what we do, and spread it across different communities. But we hold ourselves responsible to giving community activists a voice on our stations where they can't go other places. We hold ourselves responsible to tell the truth, even in the light of what's going on in this country right now. We're a conduit to information. We're a conduit to public health information, to when there's natural disasters, when there's weather incidents. We're that voice. We're that voice in all of our communities.
I'm going to read this next one right off my notes because I want to make sure I say it and say it with the right inflection and umph. Does the current state of media and journalism concern you? And how do you see the industry responding to issues of trust, misinformation, and credibility?
It is a difficult time in the media space. We all us radio and TV companies all have our FCC license. I mean, that is if you don't have that, you can't be on the airwaves. And it is our responsibility. Job number one is to protect our license. Without our license, we don't have the ability to let people on to talk about the things that are important to our communities. In this environment, you find yourselves balancing being an informer of the community while also protecting your license. And, it's no secret that some entities are critical of the administration. And when you do that, there comes risk with that. That's just the environment that we're in right now. And so we have taken an approach that as long as we're being truthful and honest, we'll live on that. Okay. And I think that journalists, are fighting the fight right now, particularly news publications. And we're not what I would say a pure news organization, but we're heavily music intensive. But in between the music, we do inform our communities. But news publications, whether it's newspaper, television, or news talk stations, are in a environment where they have to be somewhat careful about what they say, but they need to fall back on the truth.
You talk about music. I want to divert a little because it's on everybody's mind right now. It's a hot topic. Your thoughts on the halftime show with Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl? I mean, there's so many social media things out there, setting the tone of, hey, look, I couldn't understand it. Mm-hmm. But then there's the other side to be like, hey, look, when Rihanna and Shakira and all those people were doing, they weren't U.S. citizens. Bad Bunny's a U.S. citizen, right? And so you have a mixture of different ideas, right? But it's so obvious that the NFL is going global, and this is a strategic move. But when you think about how that decision of the Super Bowl and the just the halftime show, how that trickles down to the business and what you do on an everyday basis. Well,
first I'll say it was an incredible halftime show. It was well choreographed. I think that Bad Bunny did a great job. Second, the NFL, that was a business decision to do that. And they didn't buckle from what they thought was a good business decision. Bad Bunny was the #1 streamed artist in the world. Not the country, not Puerto Rico, the world. And so as the NFL's goal is to be, soccer is still the #1 sport in the world. The NFL wants to be the #1 sport in the world. And how do you become the #1 sport in the world is to put your product in front of as many eyeballs as possible across the world. Yeah. So that was a business decision, and they stood behind it. And it probably will work out for them. If you notice, the NFL is going to have 9 international games next year.
Absolutely.
That's not by accident that Bad Bunny was on that on a halftime show, because they're trying to expand their footprint worldwide. What does that mean for organizations like ours? Is that we, again, as selfishly to promote, we've understand that one of the fastest growing populations in this country are Spanish speaking populations, and so why we have actually expanded our Spanish broadcast footprint in the Ohios as well as DC, because we know that's a way for us to expand our footprint in emerging communities. So the NFL was about business. That was exactly what that was about. Make no mistake about it. And they will benefit from it. In fact, the publicity that they get from people that don't like it actually gives them more publicity. So they win, no matter whether you criticize them or you praise them, they still win.
Yeah.
Because it's eyeballs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
And
great,
ears.
because one of the assignments that I gave to my class was, I want you to tell me why the Super Bowl is the most watched television program in our country every single year, and outside of the World Cup and the Olympics, it's the most watched television program on the planet. And 3/4 of the people don't even know who's playing,
don't
or who
watch
could
football.
care less, right? And so all of that is the business of the media. And so that's why, and it's a hot topic right now. Every January, February, whatever the Super Bowl does, the commercials, everything just trickles down to the business of communications and media, which leads us to the seminar and why we are here. What does that phrase mean to you from a leadership and operational standpoint? Business of media and communications.
The business of media. That's interesting because the business side of it, we make Radio One, iHeart, Cumulus, we all make the majority of our money selling advertising. And so for the students here, when I know one of the questions we'll talk about is what advice I would give is tie it back to, if you understand how a business makes its money and you insert yourself into that sort of that ecosphere of how the business makes its money, you will always stay relevant. And so the business of media is about generating profit. That's the essence of business. Right. For those that are publicly traded companies, your first goal is return value to the shareholders, and so that is something that we have to get up every day thinking about how are we generating revenue to keep our station sustainable. Because when you look at our company, and we see it as part of our mission, is if we're not here, who's going to be there to get the message out that our community trusts? And so for me, not only is it about earning dollars and earning advertising dollars, it's about keeping ourselves viable. So when something happens, we still have that. We control the airways. We own the station. We can have who are the hell we want on there to talk about the things that our community needs to hear. So the business of it is important. The landscape has changed. If you look, when I started 15 years ago, it was pre sort of all the streaming, and now streaming is part of the lifeblood of many organizations, inclusive of ours. We had to become a diversified company to survive. We had to be more than just radio stations to survive. And so when you look at our strategy on our digital division combined with our TV One, combined with our radio stations, makes us much more diversified than what we used to be, which allows us to continue our business.
Mm-hmm. Was it hard for you as an executive, knowing that you grew up with the traditional terrestrial television, radio, even print, the emerging media and evolving and keeping ahead of the trends in business? Did you find that hard to do, and to immerse yourself in the fact that people aren't listening to the radio? They're past the aux, right? Mm-hmm. People, they're not listening to the radio. They're not watching television. Right. They're on their devices. People who have been set in their ways as far as the traditional and terrestrial way that you've done things. You as an executive, did you find that hard to get yourself to that point?
It was difficult, but you realize you needed to change fast or you'll be out of business. And so when you weigh that and put it that crystal clear, then you make changes and you make investments to make yourself viable. Again, you're right. If some of us can remember the day on regular broadcast TV, you had NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, maybe, and that was your four options to watch TV.
Yeah.
And that wasn't that long ago for the young students here. That really wasn't that long ago. And then you had all the radio stations. You had newspaper that people had delivering to their house. That was my first job, actually, was as a paper boy. When I was 14 years old, I delivered papers daily, 7 days a week for a year.
Did you hit the porch?
I put the paper where they wanted it. That was all about customer service. If the customer said they wanted
Stop
it
lying.
inside the door.
You didn't just throw it in?
I didn't just throw it.
Come on.
Because if you were a paper boy, you knew that you had to go collect your own money.
That's true.
At the end of the month.
That's true.
And if you had to go collect your own money, you to make somebody happy and give you your money, then you just deliver papers for it, because you collect after the fact.
Right.
So people don't pay in advance. So yes, I put the paper where people wanted it. So we had to change. We had to. That's why our radio division used to be called the radio division. It's called the audio division. So I'm co-president of the audio division because we're reaching people not just on our stations, we're reaching them in the apps. I had a group of pastors in, so older pastors that were in the office yesterday, actually, and trying to reach our praise audience, our gospel station. And I asked pre-pandemic, how many people were coming to your buildings and for Sunday service. And one pastor said, I used to get 300-400 a week on Sundays. Now they're down to like 50 a week. However, his tithes and offerings have not went down because he transitioned his audience to reaching them online, to reaching them through streaming. Mm-hmm. And he pivoted. And this was an older pastor. He pivoted and he realized, and what did he do? He said, because I listened to my young people. He listened to the young people in the church. He said, Pastor, you need to make this pivot and you can reach more people and the church has not financially suffered at all. Mm-hmm. And so we realized that, and part of what we do is help people realize people still do listen to the radio because it's free. And that's one thing that won't change versus you don't have to buy Sirius XM. You don't have to pay for these other streaming services. And we made our set stations available on apps. So we had to invest in making sure you could still reach us, not just with terrestrial radio, but you can stream us on our website, so you can download our apps and listen to us anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. And so now these students coming up, I mean, like you said, they're the people of today mm-hmm. and tomorrow. So with students, what should students be paying attention to right now if they're interested in careers in media, communications, marketing, or journalism? What should they be paying attention right now? Besides their professors in class.
But yes, well, I was first pay attention to professors. I would say stay up on the trends because things are changing so much faster than they ever have. And what's going to be hot next year, we don't even know about yet because the evolution of technology, when it comes to our business, again, like I said before, you should understand how any organization makes its money. And that can tell you a lot. And I would also help students understand there's so much more in our business than just the people that are on air. When I speak to classrooms and speak to students, most of them know us by our talent. They hear about Ricky Smiley or D.L. Hughley, Erica Campbell, or locally Vic Jagger. I mean, all these folks that are on the radio or folks that are doing news that are in front of the camera. There's so many more jobs in our industry that are not behind the mic and in front of the camera. So many more that are not. And that's probably the what I like to share is that if you're technology inclined, we have an engineering department. So every broadcast, TV, radio, internet, everybody needs technology. Everybody needs IT. Everybody needs salespeople that go out and sell our services. Everybody needs production, those that create the commercials. We pay people to create our commercials. On our Spanish stations, we actually use a service here in the United States, but also a service in Mexico that helps create our commercials. So you look at that, you look at the traffic. So the people that actually put the commercials in the system, that's called a traffic department. The traffic department is not that easy. Just take all of our commercials, pop them into the 6 minutes of space that we have. Well, the system tells you don't put two lawyers next to each other. Don't put Pepsi and Coke next to each other. That's all a science. It's all technology driven. How we're utilizing AI, in our business. We can literally go to a business and just say, okay, here's what you told us you wanted to get to. We can create an AI ad within hours for people, just to give them a snapshot of what an ad can sound like. There's AI generated music out there. We have some functions that makes us more efficient with the utilization of AI. We haven't run from AI. We're embracing it, but we've got to figure out how to make sure we do that without losing the human touch that people still want.
Gotcha. So full disclosure, you and I were at an event where they were honoring Kathy Hughes, and the pastor of that church in his sermon was talking about business through a biblical sense or what have you. And he mentioned that one of the things is you need to be quiet and do your stuff very stealthily, because not everybody is in line with your vision. Not everybody likes what you're doing. There's a lot of haters out there. So again, when you're talking to the students, there's one side of, I share, therefore I am, and I got to post, I got to do this, I got to be relevant. But there's also a kind of like a submarine approach that you need to be below the water until you're ready, and then you pop up, right? Could you talk about maybe a time that you found yourself in that real, well, my plan is right here, I got to be quiet about it, whether it was business management or a decision that you made that goes against the trend of posting every single time to be relevant?
Well, Brandon, who's here on our staff, would know this. So when we made a decision to launch a Spanish-speaking station here in this market, here in DC, we planned it for months. Didn't post about it, didn't talk about it publicly. We did our homework. We talked to the people we needed to talk to. We put folks under confidentiality agreements. I mean, we did all the things. And so when we actually launched our station, most of our staff didn't even know until we did it. And Brandon can attest to it, that we launched, I believe, at a 6 a.m. midnight one night. Nobody knew. And there was probably 5 people in the organization. I have over 100 people in our DC operation. 5 people knew. And we got it done. Why do we do it that way? Because folks are too quick to post things. and then you put yourself at a competitive disadvantage when it's out there. And your competition, okay, here's what they're doing, so now we can pivot this way. And so we operated that with a very close to the vest environment, and it worked out for us. So I would tell people, everybody don't need to know what you're doing. Everybody don't need to know what you're doing, whether it's personally or professionally.
Hello?
Because I can tell you right now, employers, they won't tell you, but they look at the social media. They look at your social media when you're applying for jobs and all. They look at those things. They see what you're posting about. And so I caution folks, just be careful what you're doing, because it could hurt you, but it could help you as well, but it could hurt you.
Right. Career paths. How do students successfully break into the industry, and what are some strong entry level or early career pathways that you would suggest? You mentioned about traffic and promotions. And I'm so glad that you did, because a lot of people don't know that there's a support team behind the on-air talent. But what skills would you recommend or encourage students, or not even students, people that want to break into the industry? What would you do?
I would say learn about the jobs that we have, again, outside of being on camera or behind the mic. I mean, that's probably the first thing I would say is, talk to people like me, or talk to Brandon or Lou, or talk to you about, hey, here, when I said we have over 100 people on our staff here in the DC market, 15 are on air. Just do the math. The other 80 jobs are not
on the air.
and so that should tell you something, that there's plenty of opportunities for those that consider themselves introverts, for those that consider themselves outgoing, for those that are technology savvy, for those that who help us expand our online presence. We have room for everybody in the tent. Our engineers, and I'll tell you this, our engineer group all across our 13 markets, we have chief engineers and assistant chief engineers in most of our markets. Most are 55 and up, 60 and up, most of them. Half of them could retire tomorrow, and we haven't done a good job of filling the pipeline. We have a lack of African-American engineers in an African-American owned company. And that's something that I take seriously, that we, and women, very few women in that part of our organization as well. And so I've challenged myself, and we've challenged our organization. How do we get folks on the engineering path? And engineering is not chemical or mechanical. It's more of an IT-based position now. However, when it's a blizzard and one of our stations go down, you need to be able to go to our antenna site and know what to do. And that's something we've taken as a challenge to increase the diversity in the ranks of our, particularly in engineering.
So are you saying that women and African American or people of color that are in this room they might want to come up and talk to you about maybe breaking into. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I understood that. Shoot your shot. Is that what you're saying?
Networking. Young people networking. You cannot network on Instagram. That's not networking. That's hitting people in the DMs. That's not networking. It's not networking is actually getting in front of somebody. And it's not even necessarily shooting your shot, but letting somebody know who you are. Yeah. And what your aspirations are. And let's be clear, you don't need to know what you want to do with the rest of your life at this point in your life. You don't need that's not a requirement, but you should start taking some roads and traveling some roads and trying things out. But networking is something that's key. I mean, you have people that have been successful, and I've been blessed to, work for this company for 15 years and rise in the ranks and get to work with people like Brandon, who's one of our young guns in the company and doing a fantastic job on the sales side. You got to network. I mean, Brandon is a great example of going in a room and not afraid to talk to anybody. Yeah. And you just can't. I'm a believer in social media because it's part of our business. I won't shy away from that. But there's nothing that replaces getting in front of somebody and having an authentic conversation, because they'll never get your authentic you by meeting on Teams or Zoom or on Instagram. They'll never get their authentic you, and you will be a blessing to somebody. You just got to get in front of them.
Right. And that's fascinating that you say that, because we're in the business of communication and people don't know how to communicate, right? And sooner or later, you're going to run into somebody. And I tell all my classes, it's not just what you know, it's who you know and who knows you. And your skills will pay your bills, but your network will get you work, right? And I'm sure you and I can both attest that a lot of the jobs that we have gotten, it's not just on our education alone. It's because we knew somebody and we planted the seeds.
You follow up. You meet somebody, you follow up.
Correct. And so the last question before I send it over to get some students' perspectives from you is, when you go back and say to yourself, what would today's Eddie Harrell say? What would you say to your younger self? What would you say to your younger self?
It's a good question. What would I say to my younger self? I'll probably go back to the networking side. That was something that I did not take seriously in college. I was fortunate that I interned with Kroger, so I was already in the system. Yeah. And did well with them before I left. But I passed up opportunities. To study abroad. Wow. Because I was sort of really dialed into my zip code of where I came from. And so when it was time for me to, break and that type of, I went home. I went to where I was comfortable, and I wish I had probably broken out of a comfort zone a little earlier in life. And so when I look at my kids, my kids moved away from home. My son lives on the West Coast, and I'm in awe of him. 24 years old, decided to move to the West Coast. I would have never done that. Right. And he did it. I'm I'm proud of you, because you did something I would have been afraid to do. Correct. And so you got to get out your comfort zone. Okay. That's what I would say. Right. All right. So right now we're going to open it up for some questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, there is a microphone over there. Please go over there and state your name, your zip code, your blood type, everything. And then we will try to do our best to answer a said question. So make sure you say your name, and let's go from there.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Marissa Hayes. I live in Greenbelt, Maryland. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I am a current student in Professor Holder's class, Intro to Mass Comm. I have two questions for you, Mr. Harrell. So I consider myself an outgoing person. However, when it comes to networking, do you have any strategies or successful strategies and tips for that? Sorry. And my second question is, actually start on that one, and I'll get back to my first one, please.
Strategies for networking in terms
of
successful networking. I think it's, you meet somebody, you shake their hand, you look them in their eyes, and you have a conversation. If it's somebody at an event, you have limited time. You don't get a chance to sort of give your whole bio. but it's very short. But I think the follow-up is most key. You meet somebody and you ask for their information, and you actually follow up with them. You don't understand how many people I meet them, they say they want to chat, and they don't follow up with me. And I'm not chasing you. You wanted to meet with me. And so I think that follow-up is key. Follow-up is key. That's probably where most people fall off, is not following up on a conversation, because if you're a busy executive, you meet people all day long. Yeah. You don't remember folks. But what I do remember is somebody says, hey, I met you at so-and-so, and now it's easier to remember because you probably might have been the only one to follow up.
Right. So my second question is regarding one of the 5 core ethics of journalism. And I heard you mention or speak about accuracy and being honest and telling the truth. How do you balance that by protecting your FCC license, but still delivering the truth to your community?
Well, you can deliver the truth without personal bias. And that's, we spend a lot of time with our talent talking about where they're getting information from. So when our talent come in and do show prep, and so people think sometimes talent just come in and get on air and talk. No, they usually get there about an hour and a half before their show should, and do show prep. And show prep is pulling from various sources on the internet and verifying your source, so you don't get on the air and say something that is completely wrong because so-and-so said it on Instagram. And so we spend a lot of time with that. So if we're ever approached about something we've said, if what we said is rooted in truth, then you got a leg to stand on without personal bias.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Davey, and I'm from Oxford Hill, Maryland. I'm also a student of Professor Holder. I do also have 2 questions for you as well.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for everything that you do. So my first question is, how do you protect culture when advertisers and profits are on the line?
How do we protect culture? Well, we don't have to accept all advertising. And there has been times where we actually have turned down money because all money is not great money. We have people coming to us and pitching a message that is wildly inconsistent with the culture. We'll put a stop to it. You can't imagine sometimes there are some ads we receive that you would go, wow, this is what you want us to put out there. And we don't do it. We don't do it. It just comes down to a simple because I'm the one that's got to go to places and look people in the eye and they're like, this is what y'all doing? And I've had those conversations before. And so we screen everything that comes across. There's nothing that hits our airwaves that somebody in our organization hasn't listened to before it goes on air.
Okay, thank you for that. So my second question would be, what decisions have you made in your position that people did not like that you would make again?
Wow. That I would or would not make again?
Would make again.
That I would make again. That's a good question, because we're in positions sometimes you do have to make tough decisions. There's been a couple situations where we've taken people off air that were popular. And there's reasons why we do that. We have the ability to measure. We have the ability to measure whether somebody's bringing in ratings or not. And so ratings translate to revenue for us. And you could have a long time person that's been on the air, whether it's TV or radio, and they're just not getting the ratings anymore. They might be popular, but they're not getting the ratings. Those are 2 different things. And when you take them off air, it can cause some community, certainly some community unrest. But I'm privy to having information that most other people don't have. And that sometimes you make decisions that looks like it's being done in a vacuum, when in fact it's been done with a lot of information and intel to help you make an educated decision about what you're doing. And it can be unpopular at the time, but you know why you're doing it, and you got to be consistent. One of the things that biggest mistakes you can make as an executive is to waver based on, who's the last person in your ear. And so I when I make tough decisions, whether it's bringing somebody in or putting somebody out the organization or changing a format, when we brought on our Spanish-speaking format just recently, over the past 4 months, we moved our gospel station to another signal. That caused a lot of, we didn't get rid of it, we just moved it to a different signal, and that caused a lot of calls to the radio station. However, from a business perspective, it was the right thing to do. And it has opened up a new opportunities for us that I stand behind. even though it was probably unpopular to some in the religious community, which is why I've actually had meetings with some pastors to explain why we did what we did. And once I get them in face to face, not on Teams, not on Zoom. I've had meetings with probably 5 or 6 pastors in the past month. Once I explain to them face to face, they go, oh, I get it.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Morning.
I'm Emmanuel Willis. I'm one of the academic and career advisors here at the college. I wanted to ask a question about you talked about the antenna site. Can you talk about that? I've never heard of that before.
So transmitter sites. So if you're driving somewhere and you see big sort of structures that are like antennas, a lot of our radio stations and TV stations are broadcast from those. And so we send the signal from our studios to the transmitter site, and the transmitter site out to your radios and TVs. And so those are, could be several hundred feet in the air. And so, people got to go up. You got to paint those from time to time from an FCC standpoint, so planes can see when they're going past. There's lights on some of the antennas, and so, but all the antennas have a structure at the bottom, a little building that houses all of sort of. And I don't want to get outside of my lane on the IT side, but all of our infrastructure.
Okay.
And so when our stations go down, if we can't tap into them remotely, somebody's got to go out and know what they're doing to get us back on air. Being on air is the worst thing for us. Being off air is the worst thing for us because when your community can't hear you, and we're not running the commercials that we sold. And so when we're back on, we have to try to make good on the commercials that weren't run. So we have to run them at a different time. But the transmitter sites are key to our organization. You can't operate a radio station without a transmitter site that's highly functional.
Thank you. And the second question is, what are some transferable skills for people who are not in the industry who may want to career change into the industry?
Your people skills. I mean, there's nothing in my organization that you can do without talking to people. Nothing. And so to me, if you have, and that's one of the reasons Radio 1 actually recruited me, because I came from totally outside the industry, but what they saw was my ability to connect with business owners, to lead. And if you can lead in one industry or another, if you can lead. But the people skills, I think, is probably the most transferable thing that we have. When it comes to technical skills, the social media side of it is, that is for us a game changer on how do you take our brands and make them popular well beyond our terrestrial signals.
Thank you.
If I could add to that, real quick, as far as transferable skills, I think your nonverbal skills, a lot of us need a little freshening up with that.
Oh, yeah.
You can wear anything you want, but you should be able to actually learn how to read a room and know how to dress, how to carry yourself. Those are transferable skills that a lot of people take for granted, right? That your nonverbals, again, you speak to people, but your nonverbals will either cancel you out or they will propel you before you even open your mouth.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing that is sorely missed in the whole technological space, whatever, that the nonverbal part of, how you look, how you carry yourself. You and I don't get to a position like this without learning how to understand.
Do you know what to order at a restaurant? There's just all the little things that you learn along the way of what to order, not order when you're out on a business meeting.
Right.
I've had to counsel folks, like, it's a work event, but it's casual environment. So after dinner drinks or whatever, it's still work.
Right. It's always work.
If you go to a conference with your company and everybody wants to go out and hang out, it's still work, because if you that one, if you that one that over drinks, over whatever, everybody gonna be talking about you, and you won't know it.
You won't know it.
You won't know it.
Absolutely.
It happens. It happens all the time.
Right.
You don't want that to be you. Right. So that's the nonverbal piece of it, is what's your ability to assess a situation. What's your ability to have a variety, to understand there's a variety of situations you're going to find yourself in. In my role, my wife, I like the greasiest spoon of greasiest spoon restaurants that you can come up with. Love them. I can go in dressed like this and I'm cool. because I know where I'm at and I love it. But in the same day, I can go to Ocean Prime downtown and do a different type of meeting because I'm comfortable in all environments. And so you have to put yourself in situations that you're not accustomed to being in, so you can get some comfort level in doing that.
Right.
And so where I grew up being comfortable and I call them grimy. That's my grimy places. That's me and my wife. She like going somewhere, give me some grimy food. She like, you go on, bring me some home now. I'll go grimy because that's what I was used to.
Right.
I had to learn the elevated stuff when I'm comfortable.
Right. Correct.
Put me somewhere with some pork chops and gravy and some onions and all that. Yeah, it's incredible.
Right.
But I had to learn.
Yeah.
When I went to the high end places, which fork to use,
Correct.
which knife to use.
Correct. And I also would throw in one more thing, listening,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all can hear noises, but listening to people, because that's where and a lot of people don't want to listen because it's like, okay, I know exactly what you're going to say, whatever, but you don't know how much the listening is a transferable skill that is just lost, that needs to be reinvented.
And you can learn a lot by letting a fool talk.
That's good.
Yeah, you can learn a lot by letting a fool talk, because we got two of these and one of these, so you can listen twice as much as you talk.
Yeah.
And even as a leader, and Brandon would attest to this, that in meetings, I don't talk the most. I can, but I don't, because I don't feel like it's my role just to be talking just because I can. I listen. And then I'm listening for clues about things that are going on in people's lives, and people talk about things, and I can say, hey, you know what? I heard you say this because it could be a problem at home. And I can be like, hey, we ain't talking about business right now. How are you? Your son is going through this. Anything I can do to help you? Change it. We're not even talking about business. But that helps people when you see how much loyalty you get with that, because you actually care. And for me, it's authentic. I'm not doing it because there's an ulterior motive, because I want to know, because people did it for me.
Wow.
People did it for me, because we all bring things to school. We all bring things to work. Things. Life be life, and that's what the young people say. Life be life, and we have to understand that if you can help people with those things, they can be a better employee. You can help them become an owner in your business, because part of this is about ownership too. And I want to make sure I'm telling the young people, you don't have to go work for somebody as well. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you should take that entrepreneurship track. Miss H took that track. Miss H got turned down 32 times. She stayed on that track.
Yeah.
So ownership is an opportunity.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andre. I'm also a Greenbelt native, and I'm also a part of Professor Holder's class. I only have one question. So as I'm sure a lot of the people here are working and also having desires to go into the communications field, do you have any advice for anyone to balance the pursuit of communication while still looking to earn profit while they're young?
Profit is key. I think you got to keep grinding. The entry level jobs aren't the highest paying jobs.
Yeah.
They aren't. Let's be honest with you. And most of the time, it's part time to start. But in this technological environment, you actually can make money doing other things while you do that as well. Whether it's Uber and Uber Eats, whatever. There's ways to actually support yourself while you go through this process. But whether it's a board op, people that actually in our studios that run the boards to put us on there, go to commercial. Well, somebody's in the room doing it, moving hitting the buttons or what have you. Those are usually part-time jobs. On our promotions teams that are out at our events, those are usually part-time jobs. But I would say to keep yourself, to understand that there's an end goal. And I think you got to stay focused on the end goal. That yes, it's tough, but the full-time opportunities will present themselves. And when I look at folks who are considering part-time, we sit in a room and say, who's been bringing it? Who's here? Who's present? When we have meetings, who's actually paying attention to what's going on as opposed to looking at their phone? Who's asking questions? Who's willing to learn? Who's willing to do things outside of what they said they wanted to do, that'll come do things that we need them to do? Because who's going to be there to break down the tables after the event, or when we're done, you gone? Those are the things that we're looking for. And so I think that you have to balance the entry-level opportunities with other things you have going on in your life, whether that's school, whether that's a family, and it all works together. And it should be complementary, though. We should be I know we treat our team as a family. And I would, if I wasn't in a room, I'm sure Brandon would say that it's like a family. And so we have people to come hang out even when they're not on the clock because it's a safe space. And you can actually get things done around people that love you and people that like, now we fight too, but we're a family. Every family fight, right? We fight, but we hug it out and we keep it moving. But I would challenge you to you got to weigh. It's not easy. You got to weigh those things. You got to, and you have to determine what your priorities are. And that's probably what all of us are forced to pick and choose what your priorities are. And I told folks about like your money. You show me your checkbook and I'll show you your priorities. You say you want to do certain things, but if you show me how you're spending your money, I'm going to tell you what your priorities are based on where you spend your money.
Yeah.
That's very true. No, that's all. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Adrian. I am also a student in Professor Holt's class. I want to give a little bit of context for my two questions here. In my English class, we currently submitted an essay on analyzing a video called The Age of, Drowning in Entertainment, The Age of Distraction. And so I just wanted to ask you, in the current scope of things, and also asking from a more cultural and social standpoint, how hard is it to stay relevant and also informative in like the state of algorithms, short attention spans, and growing distractions, seeing as that like with the development of AI, we'll see a lot of what younger people will call brain rot, as in useless content. And with this, there's an influx of kind of stupid content that drowns out relevant information. What are certain ways that your company is combating that?
So you sound like you've been in our meetings every day. Yeah, I mean, what you just articulated was what we talk about every day. So we have an online editor team that addresses just that. What do we post that is relevant, or is it going to get drowned out? Because you don't post just to post. I mean, there's an intent behind posting that you don't want to get drowned out and then what's going on the rest online. When it comes back to professions, that's part of what we need. You know, we've invested in doing exactly what you just said. We have a team that does that every day, that are looking to how do we differentiate ourselves versus what's going on in the environment. We've trained our talent. So our talent's the people that people know. And so we've trained them on what to post, how to post, when to post, how long should it be. There's all kinds of training we do to try to address that so you don't get lost in the noise, because there's a lot of noise online. And it's just if you got a phone and a camera, you can post. It's that easy. Doesn't make you good, but it's that easy. And so the fight for the attention of the listener's ear or the viewer's ear, eyes, is a challenge for us that we tackle every day. And so your whole question is what we ask ourselves every day, and we have a team that's assigned to do that.
Right. And final question is about, you talked about training, but one type of training I wanted to speak on is media training. Also in the video that we analyzed, the poster uses the 2020 presidential debate between former President Joe Biden and current President Donald Trump. What do you think of the shift in attitude towards media and how anyone can go around saying fake news, and how sort of people have started to take most, if not all, broadcasting networks unserious because of certain unsavory people sort of representing their networks and giving them a bad light? Like how hard is it? Again, it's similar in a way of staying relevant. I just wanted your perspective on that, seeing as I think myself, it's sort of hard to find what you can really trust in terms of relevant information. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
It's very unfortunate we're in that situation where the public trust of news is probably at an all-time low. And I think our only way out of that is to be consistent I think broadcast partners and media partners have to be very careful do a better job of who we let behind a mic. Just to be honest with you. And I know we're in a challenging environment, but I always say, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I think we have to, I think there will be a course correction, over time to get back to journalism with integrity, journalism that is true journalism and not just personal opinions. But there's a place for personal opinion. There's a place for editorial, comment. But it should not be. Most people think the news is actually editorial comment all the time, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. For organizations like ours, the role we play is we're very careful about who we let on air. You can't imagine how many calls we get from local politicians, national politicians, pundits, influencers, all these folks that want to come on air. And many we tell no, because it would be irresponsible of us to give you a platform to lie to our audience. And because most of the time people are going to believe what our folks tell them.
Yeah.
If they believe we let it on there, they believe we believe it. Therefore, you'll believe it. And it's irresponsible. And that's something that we take seriously. And I think you have news organizations now that are catering to some popular parts of the population versus others that will find themselves at the end of the day, it'll impact their business. And people won't make big decisions until it impacts their business. And that's the truth of it. If the MSNBCs, the CNNs, the Fox News, all these folks, you don't impact their bottom line, they may not change anything they're doing. Look what happened with Target. Target had to make a pivot because it impacted their business. And so I think that's one of the ways that, when you talk about civic engagement, that I am very encouraged by our younger generations that are active. Because y'all go at somebody. If somebody on the right, y'all get at them online. And you know what? They make change when you get at them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Richard. I'm also a student for Professor Holder. I wanted to ask, you mentioned you've been doing this for 15 years. Is there a major difference to what's appealing to this generation towards what was appealing years ago to the older generation back then? And has it been easy to adapt to it? AI and everything, is it been hard?
It's from a music perspective, it's been more difficult for us, particularly on the hip hop side. And so we have our mainstream stations, same that we call our hip hop stations. You just have artists that don't have the catalogs they used to have. And what I mean by that is you have artists that, you could get popular on one song now. And versus a Drake that has 500 songs. But so you get popular on one song, but so you can rise real fast and then you're gone. We have so many situations like that it's impacted our ability to, particularly on the hip hop side, to keep putting out the hits on the radio because there ain't a lot of hits. I mean, there's TikTok hits, there's your TikTok artists don't make you a national artist. And so we have struggled with that platform there. The R&B side is fine. You got your Ushers of the world, you got folks that, who are going to be around for a lot longer. But on the hip hop side, that's been more of a challenge for us, is finding that solo artist or that group that can last more than 5 years at the top. Actually lasts more than a year. And then they're all trying to, capitalize on instant fame, with their prices for concerts and all these things that it's unsustainable because we're somewhat in the concert business too. We have Birthday Bash in Atlanta, which is one of the largest hip hop concerts in the country. We did Summer Jam in Cleveland for years, which, by the way, we actually had Migos on, I think, in 2016 before they blew up. We paid Migos, I think, $7,000 before they became huge. We paid Cardi B, I think, one year like $20,000, and she had Bodak Yellow was out. It was right on that upswing. Got her to do a concert in Cleveland. Killed it in terms of ticket sales. Next year, Cardi B with 250,000 for a concert, then $500,000 for a concert, and $1 million for a concert. I mean, she just so that the business model has changed where people like her has been sustainable. She sustained her platform, but others one-hit wonders, they gone, and that's been more difficult on the young side. And that's what's changed. Is that folks believe that they can become hits online.
So I have another question for you. Since everything is moving so fast, trends last 20 days, and then we move on to another trend. How much information are you meant to absorb every day to keep in touch with everything that is going on? Do you have a journal? Do you read a lot of books? Do you read articles? How do you do that?
I've always tried to model people that I thought were successful, from how they speak to how they dress, to what I aspire to be. And even in my career, there's people I look up to. I've never lost the desire to get better. And so whether that's looking at business podcasts or listening to the business podcasts or if I'm at home, watching things that, that help me learn more. When you look at the regulatory environment, station groups will, from a deregulation standpoint, probably be able to own more stations across the country. I learned about mergers and acquisitions, things that inspire me to do more and do better. I've never been satisfied with where I'm at, never. And that's not from a greed standpoint. That's just from a desire to learn and desire to want to grow my platform. And I feel like but I only do that by bringing people along with me. I've never been on a team where it was about me. It's about bringing people on that are frankly smarter than me in the areas that they should be smarter than me. And so I've never been a leader that needs to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm the dumbest guy in the room. And what I mean by that is if I'm the smartest guy in the room and I have the ability to hire everybody, and I'm bringing in people that don't have an expertise level that's higher than me in the areas that they should, that's on me. If we're talking about technology or social media, like things that have changed so much, I've not relied on myself to keep up with it. And I can tell you that right now. I've hired folks, and we've hired people that are much smarter than me in that space, and I count on them. I ask them questions. I say, what do we need to be doing here? Ultimately, I got to make decisions, but I need to make decisions based on information that's given to me from people that understand what they're talking about. And sometimes those are people who are half my age, and I'm cool with that. I'm real cool with that, actually. I encourage it.
Hello, my name is Brandon Saavedra. I'm also a student under Professor Holder. I kind of want to, can you elaborate on something you said earlier? Mm-hmm. You said something about you have rejected certain offers because you don't want to give certain people a sort of platform. Can you elaborate on that? Because this will go into my next question.
Yeah, I mean, we've had politicians that want to come on and talk about things that aren't true related to health disparities in the communities. We've had doctors that want to come on and talk about when COVID hit. People wanted to come on and talk about vaccines or no vaccines. When it comes to celebrity gossip, we've actually not been part of some celebrity gossip. Somebody wants to come on and talk about somebody's life, and we're not getting in front of that. We've had situations where online somebody has purportedly died, and we're like, whoa, before we go on and perpetuate this, let's make sure that just because TMZ said it, don't make it true. And we've stopped before we do things like that. And so because it's our responsibility to try to be as truthful as possible. Some commercials that have come across that are too far stereotypical, that we've said, hey, you need to edit this. We had in Columbus one time, we had a politician that wanted to play an ad, and it was grossly stereotyping. Two black women talking. It was actually offensive, and we didn't air it. We said, you need to change this. This is not how all black people talk. It was offensive.
Okay. So the question I wanted to lead into that was that certain brands actually like they elevate themselves by speaking negatively or in any way, shape, or form. You know, there's a lot of brands that say like very negative things. For an example, I would like to say like the Super Bowl that just happened. You know, there's certain podcasters. There's a lot of news outlets that are saying like very negative things towards, you know, the Patriots since, you know, they lost. They like to elevate the Seahawks in a certain way, and you know they gain a lot of attention momentum through everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, by speaking negatively towards certain like aspects of the Patriots, right? And do you think that when you try to look into the good of both aspects, so the Seahawks and the Patriots, do you think that it seems like you're drawing your audience towards a certain type of bias view?
Some people, that's what their lives are. I mean, some people that they get up in the morning to create confrontation and create division. And ultimately what you'll find is that's how they're making money. You know, those that are sowing division, sowing division has become profitable to some people. Right? It's unfortunate, but it's true. I mean, we have a right to say what you want to a degree, but it's not responsible. But you know, all we can do is control what we can control, and we are very adamant about making sure that to the best of our abilities that we're being fair, we're being truthful, we're giving platforms to both sides of an issue, and because that's the part of you know, we're presented sometimes with we talk in our meetings about, well, if we're going to let somebody talk about X in a certain way, there is a divergent opinion, and we need to let that person talk as well, because we're not a monolith, whether it's the Spanish speaking community or the Black community, hell, and in the white community. Just because you're a certain race or ethnicity, you don't all agree. And so you need to have divergent opinions on a particular topic, and we try to give a forum for that as well.
Respectfully disagree.
Right, and it's okay to respectfully disagree.
So let's give it up for Mr. Eddie.
Thank you.